Catch a seat, it's about to get deep. This is going to be one of the longer videos I've ever done, I think. It's about an article in ESPN about how elite athletes handle pressure. And speaking of pressure, if you don't like and subscribe, you're going to crumble under the pressure for the rest of your life. If you don't like and subscribe to this video, you're going to choke. Okay. This article is long. We're going to go through the whole thing, and I think you'll learn something. I'm going to give you my commentary as we go along. So relax and listen, and I hope you enjoy it. It's entitled Rise Above It or Drown, How Elite NBA Athletes Handle Pressure. It begins even though he knew better because he'd been in the same situation dozens of times before. Steph Curry, the consummate marksman and champion, who just 40 days earlier had been named the first unanimous MVP in NBA history, couldn't help himself. His reaction with 53 ticks left on the Game 7 clock in the 2016 NBA Finals, seconds after Kyrie Irving's surgical three-point shot had fallen through the strings, was a primal, instinctive response to a lifetime spent swirling in a cauldron of competition and pressure. I gotta go back at him. As he dribbled the ball up the floor, the pressure mounting with Irving in pursuit, Curry's hypothalamus, a small region of the brain located near the pituitary gland, sounded the alarm. When the body and mind are under duress, the hypothalamus instructs the adrenal glands to release cortisol and adrenaline, both stress hormones. This is what caused Curry's heartbeat to accelerate and his breath to quicken, sending blood rushing to the areas that needed it most, a way to protect his body in emergencies. Let's stop right there for just a moment, because this blood rushing to where your body needed it most, it's where your body would need it most if you were actually in a life or death situation. The problem is when you're under fear, when you're feeling pressure, your body activates the big muscles in your body as if you had to run away from a bear and you had to get your quads, your glutes, your hams, the big muscles going, and you lose dexterity in your fingers. You're more likely to short arm a shot, feel like you don't have coordination, or feel like it came off with a good amount of coordination, but it's a little too hard. You have too much energy in your body, and it hits the back of the rim, and you don't understand why it didn't go in because it felt so good. You had a little bit too much energy, a little bit too much adrenaline. Being slow and smooth in those pressure moments are key to being clutch. Let's read on. That sensation was different from what Curry experiences before most big games when he says he contends with butterflies that leave his stomach in turmoil. Now remember, guys, what you go through, the greatest athletes go through. So don't feel bad, don't feel ashamed, don't feel like there's something wrong with you because you're nervous. They're nervous. Everyone's nervous. It's part of it. Your ego's involved. You have fans in the stands who are cheering for you, cheering against you. And to a certain extent, the human brain cares what other people think. You know, I take cognitive neuroscience and classes, and it's a fact that 80 to 90% of the time we spend thinking about ourselves or other people. And there's a theory that has some strong evidence to suggest that it's true. When we have nothing to think about, we start trying to guess what other people are thinking. And a lot of times when we start to guess what other people are thinking, we assume they're thinking about us possibly when they may not be thinking about us. So the brain is organized in a way to think about yourself, to protect yourself. This gets into Freudian psychology too, to protect your sense of I, how you feel about yourself, and also to try to guess what other people are thinking. The way you become a mental master is to go against your own biology in the brain, right? To stop thinking about other people. As a matter of fact, stop thinking about yourself. Stop caring so much. It's what we talk about. Care a lot in practice, and then when you perform, you have to have a carefree attitude. It's an uneasy feeling, Curry says. It happens so fast. It's not a steady progression. I experience it when I'm in the locker room preparing to get locked in for a big game. Because it matters so much, it's cliche, but if you aren't nervous, it doesn't matter enough to you. That's true. That's absolutely true. It matters a lot to you. This is why mental training, this is why it's so vital, because you have to acknowledge the reality that basketball is so important to you. You know, all your hopes and dreams are riding on it. And then to be able to have the mental fortitude to go out there and play carefree. How do you do that? I think that's why Curry does a lot of compensation with joy. The nervousness is compensated by joy. He tries to remember why he plays the game. I think that's why in the pregame warm-ups, he does a lot of weird sports activities. He'll bowl, he'll act like he's golfing, he's playing hockey, he's doing, what's it called in the Olympics when they're shuffling the board with the ice, curling. He's doing this because I think he's trying to remember that it's a game and it's supposed to be fun. And I think that's might be a very useful way to approach your nerves. And I got to make a quick pitch here. If you want to get over that nervousness before a game, get the Basketball Brain program. The guys swear by it. If you just do the pregame drills in that program, it'll be worth the $27 a year. Just that alone. I could sell that alone, and it would be worth every penny that you spend, okay? Earlier in Curry's career, when the game was tight and he was on the bench, former Warriors assistant coach Keith Smart noticed that Curry's leg would quiver. It was almost like a nervous twitch, Curry reports. Smart offered a suggestion to Curry. Purposely tense all the muscles in his body, hold it, feel the stress, then suddenly release. It sounds like Mr. Smart has used the Basketball Brain program, but we also add more to it. We add breathing and we add a mantra that calms your body, your mind, your heart rate, and it gets you ready to play with extreme confidence and poise. That's the key word, poise. It's amazing that NBA players don't know these drills. I mean, it just boggles my mind that Curry's in the NBA and he's just now hearing that you can use isometric tension to calm your nerves. Really, it's surprising. Supposedly all these teams have sports psychologists, have people on the staff that can help them. I don't understand how any player in the NBA wouldn't know how to relax before a game. I mean, it just really boggles my mind. We need to get Basketball Brain to every NBA player. And they think, oh, NBA high school players use this. I can't use this. BS. The mind is the same whether you're 15 or you're 35. It doesn't matter. You're going to experience the same emotions because the older parts of our brain kick in pressure moments. And those older parts of the brain are the same in every single person once you're over about the age of 13 years old. Okay, Curry goes on, you start with every muscle you think you control in a neutral position. And then when you tighten them, I think your body thinks, well, this is as stressed as your body can be, Curry explains. So when you let all that go, maybe that's how the endorphins kick in. I don't know if it was based on science or something Smart actually did as a player, but it worked. It's based on science, and it's probably something Smart did as a player. It does work. It will change your game if you learn to relax before the game. You'll get into the rhythm much faster. Again, just blows my mind that these guys have never heard of it. By the time June 19th, 2016 rolled around, Curry had strayed from that exercise. As he focused on matching Kyrie tit for tat, teammate Draymond Green slid over with 44.2 seconds left to set a stout pick on Irving, forcing 7-footer Kevin Love to switch onto Curry. Curry's adrenaline surged. It was a mismatch he felt certain he could exploit. When I was younger and I got into those types of situations, Curry says, it made me rush, play fast. With experience, you figure out ways to slow the game down. That's right. You go slow on offense. The old military saying comes to mind. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Slowing down on offense, relaxing, allowing yourself to play at around like a 7.5 on a scale of 1 to 10 will allow you to maintain dexterity and perform in pressure moments like that. We're going to talk more about visualization as this article goes on and how important that is to get reps without actually being in real physical pressure situations because those only come about randomly. But if you start to visualize, you can create pressure situations in your mind, just like when you dream and it's hyper realistic. You can do that in your mind every day, hundreds of times a day. I still hit game winners probably 100 times a week in my head. I still do. And in those situations, I'm proud to say I've hit a lot of game winners. I really have. And I feel confident in those situations. So confident that I'll tell my teammates, give me the ball and I'll knock it in. We'll win. Okay? It's from visualizing. And then as you visualize, you start to perform on the court. And when you start to perform on the court, this starts to create two systems feeding off each other, the mental visualization and the physical experience of performing in those moments. And then your confidence really just gets robust and strong. Curry pump faked, created a sliver of separation, dribbled left, then crossed over to his right. The shot clock whittled down to 4 seconds and Curry, capitulating to the urgency, hoisted a three that bounced off the rim in and out. I remember this play. I think Curry was hurt, and that's why he couldn't get the shot off on Kevin Love. But, he's going along with this article. I'm like, I just need a little space, and that's where I started to rush, Curry says now. I look back and think I could have easily gone around Love and gotten a two. and we could have gotten a stop. And then I could come back down and hit another shot, and we win another championship instead of me going for the hero shot, which I felt like I could make. That was a shot where I was not under control, and it cost us a championship. I think Curry sometimes answers questions diplomatically. I don't know how honest this is. I think Curry 100 times out of 100 takes that shot over Love to try to win the game. To shoot a three is never a bad shot for Steph Curry. He looked hobbled to me in that moment, but you still got to make it. The hard part about being someone like Curry is when you're hurt, you're not like a Jordan, you're not like a Kobe where you can go down and just kind of post up and get your points that way, shoot easy fadeaways, and you have to rely on your quickness when you're that size. So if you're even a little banged up, Curry's even a little banged up, it's a bigger difference than when a bigger star is banged up. You can't compensate as much. As Curry walked off the court, simultaneously devastated and furious with himself, it's the worst feeling in the world, guys. It's the worst feeling in the world. The Cleveland Cavaliers fell into a heap of celebration. Curry surveyed the scene before he departed. He remembers exactly what he was thinking. Don't ever make the mistake of rushing like that again, he says. Yeah, I agree, don't rush, because his shot probably didn't feel great when he let it go. That's why he's upset with himself. He needed to stay poised. He needed to move smoothly. He needed to slow down a little bit, slow the game down. Can elite athletes train to be impervious to pressure? Yes, I can answer that. Absolutely. Do the Basketball Brain program. Check out killerinstinctsports.com. Of course they can. Everyone has this sort of a very similar neurochemistry in pressure moments, or neurophysiology, let me say. You can start to control that through breathing, through the prep you do before and the weeks leading up. You can do it through your practice sessions, how you practice when you're shooting shots in a practice session. Start to make it feel like you're shooting in the game. If you're just practicing free throws, pretend every free throw you take is with 1 minute left in the game and you're down 3 and you got to make 3 in a row. Just pretend there are people in the stands watching you. Get your mind to start making it seem as if that is real. It's very powerful to do. So yes, they can train to be impervious to pressure. Steph Curry thinks they can. Well, he agrees with me, and offers his dossier following the fateful 26th June day as evidence. Since then, Golden State has won back-to-back championships and is positioned for a three-peat. In that time, Curry has drilled 61 clutch shots within the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter or overtime, according to ESPN stats and information. His clutch ability and mental resolve were highlighted in a seminal 33-point second-half performance to eliminate the Houston Rockets in Game 6 of the Western Conference semifinals after he'd gone scoreless in the first half. I did another video on this. I'll link it above. I guess you can say that the 2016 miss didn't haunt me, he says. No. Great athletes, legends, that's fuel for them. Those misses, those heartaches, those humiliations, it helps them become even greater than they were. Elite athletes fail. What makes them elite is they learn and grow from it. That's what I just said. Think Irvin Magic Johnson dribbling out the clock and missing key free throws in the 1984 finals against the Celtics and being branded Tragic Magic, then returning the next season to lead the Lakers to the title over Boston, and thwarting the Celtics again in 1987 with a junior hook that has become an enduring symbol of Johnson's greatness. Yeah, people forget that. Everyone was hard on J.R. Smith, and I thought, that can happen to even great players. Remember Magic Johnson. Remember the inbound pass Isaiah Thomas made against the Celtics that Bird stole. Think LeBron James, who, as the chosen one of the Heat, became the frozen one, as Skip Bayless would say, appeared passive and disconnected in the 2011 finals against Dallas, gnawing on his fingernails as Miami blew a 2-1 series lead, then embracing the role as the team's alpha and delivering 2 Heat titles and 1 for Cleveland later. I've always said this. One of the greatest things about LeBron, which also sadly takes him out of the conversation as the greatest ever, is that he overcame his lack of clutch ability and became clutch. That very rarely happens. Players who aren't clutch don't usually bounce back from it. It's not often that they can bounce back. At one point in James' career from 2006 to 2016, he was 5 for 47 with 5 seconds in the game left or less, and had a chance to tie or make the go-ahead bucket. 5 for 47. Only Jamal Crawford, I think, was worse. That was according to ESPN stats and info, and I think that was only during the regular season. Players don't usually come out of that hole, and it's a testament to how strong his mind is, and I really mean that. LeBron gets a lot of heat, no pun intended, but he gets a lot of heat, and most of it's deserved. When you want to be the GOAT, people are going to nitpick your game, buddy. It's going to happen. Truly great ones know there's pressure, so they don't consider consequences, says Heat president Pat Riley, who coached Magic and ran the front office during LeBron's Miami tenure. If they did, they'd cave in all the time. Yeah. Part of it is just getting stupid. We've talked about this in a lot of videos. Being stupid can really help you. Just not thinking. I tell guys all the time who are scared to talk to girls. There's some girl in your class, there's a girl at work you want to talk to, make sure it's okay to do that. But when you see a girl meaning it's okay to go talk to her. When you see a girl you like, just get stupid. Stop thinking and go do it. Part of being clutch is you just kind of get stupid. That's one way to do it. We'll talk about another in a second. You can see it in the quote Kyrie has right here. Stress is a natural physical and mental reaction to life's challenges. Elite basketball stars shared with ESPN how stress manifested itself in each of them during critical moments. They experienced varying physical characteristics of that stress. For Michael Jordan, it meant palms that became so sweaty he needed to apply repeated doses of rosin powder so he could grip the ball. For Larry Bird, it was a persistent nausea that would not subside until he hit the pre-game layup line. Really quickly, if you notice before Michael Jordan's games, and I put this in the Basketball Brain program, he makes two fists before the jump ball. And I'm 99.999% sure what he's doing there is a drill called throwing pebbles, which helps you get rid of pressure and expectations. And he does it before every single game. It's a pretty, I wouldn't say common, but it's a known technique to rid yourself of unwanted pressures and expectations. Jordan used mental training, specifically visualization. No one ever really taught him visualization. He just sort of did it and knew that it helped him. So that's something to consider. I won't read the display quote here. Let's just keep going. How each of those stars mentally managed that stress and in some cases thrived from it has shaped their legacies. Ignore the consequences, as Riley suggests, and your career trajectory shoots upward. Succumb to those consequences, and you will never reach your potential. Just like with refining your shooting stroke, the more reps with pressure, the more your body will learn to cope. Yeah, that's the point. Reps make you rain. Reps help you in crunch time. And the way you get more reps is to start to visualize constantly and make it as realistic as possible. And when you're playing pickup games, put pressure on yourself. Try to get the ball, hit the game winner in pickup games. When you're playing 21 and it's time for you to hit the game winner to end it, make sure you really take that seriously and try to hit the game winner. And also, don't just think about scoring. Think about what you can do on defense in pressure moments. If you need a stop towards the end of a pickup game, make sure you get it. If you need a rebound, you need to make a pass, you need to make a steal, make sure every time the game is in a pressure situation, you start to step up and embrace that. Irving sank the biggest jumper in Cavs history with great regard to the magnitude of the shot. It was important for him, he explains, to recognize the gravity of the moment because that's when he feels most invincible. I love Kyrie and I love Kobe because of this. Irving claims the best players transform pressure into a potent weapon by utilizing a deep reservoir of belief in their own abilities. Pressure to me is just a word describing fear, Irving says. And when you go through the process of figuring life out, how important basketball is to you, and you release that fear in the circumstances and the environment it exists in, you learn to embrace pressure. I enjoy pressure. I look forward to it. Let me stop right here because I want you to do this in the rest of your life. I just made another video saying just this. Be the guy who wants it. Want the ball in crunch time. Be the person who wants to step up when somebody needs to give a speech. Be the person that will go talk to other people when everyone else is shy and doesn't want to go up and speak up. Be that person. Do it constantly. Look forward to it. Like to feel uncomfortable. In my Killer Instinct program at dylanfreed.com, there's a link below if you guys want to check that out. It's more for general killer instinct to help you succeed in life. But I always say, killers develop an attitude of comfort with the discomfort. They love being in a situation that's uncomfortable. They like it to get awkward. I remember Kobe saying, when I get into practice, things get real uncomfortable real quick. Why? Because when you're playing on the road in a Game 7 at Utah and people are shouting taunts at you, maybe racial taunts in Utah, you got to be able to handle it. You got to be able to thrive in discomfort, in uncomfortable circumstances. and to love it. You got to love it. Just make that shift. Say, yeah, I want the ball. I love this. This is exciting. Instead of saying, I'm scared, what if this, what if that, saying, I love this. I love this. Or you can just get stupid. Maybe you do a combination of both. Jerry West, for his part, Jerry West was a killer, man. He had some game winners. Systematically prepared his mind and body over a lifetime of training for clutch moments. West says he spent his childhood shooting baskets, simulating the final seconds of a game. Yeah, you do that too. Every day you practice, you got to do that. I did it 1,000,000 times as a kid, West says, and I never failed because I was the timekeeper. If I missed, I'd always put 1 second back on the clock. Every day when you wake up, in your mind, hit 20 game winners. And then when you're done practicing, you've gone through all your shooting drills, take another 20 minutes and just pretend it's the end of the game and you got to make shots. Do it especially when you're tired, because you're going to be tired in the game when it's crunch time. Crunch time necessarily happens late in the game when you're tired. So get used to shooting and making shots off the dribble, catch and shoot, fadeaway, layups, floaters. Just put yourself in those situations over and over again. I did the same thing, didn't you? As Jerry West, when you miss, you just put a little more time back in the clock. Pretend it's for all the marbles and you got to make it. Play those games with yourself constantly. Jordan said, I always played visualization games with myself. And it really helped me. Other players, it was like the first time they'd ever been there. For me, it was like I'd already been there before. I'd visualized it so many times. And in psychology, it's called the deja vu experience. And the deja vu experience is just that. You visualize so intensely, you feel like it's happened before. It's so powerful. It just eliminates stress and fear, and it makes you excited because it's kind of like hitting play on a DVD. You know what's in the movie. You know what's going to happen. So it's fun to be in those moments. When West played in the NBA in the 60s, the shot clock didn't display fractions of a second. West didn't need it. He created a permanent cadence in his brain. I never had to look at the clock. I never felt pressure when it was ingrained in me how to make those shots. Wow, that's so true. And, I hope you guys don't think this is like me flexing or anything or bragging, but when I've hit game winners, you don't really have to worry about the clock if you practice so much. When I see an NBA player not get a shot off and the clock winds down, I think, how is that not? You look at the clock and your body just kind of knows, your subconscious mind just knows how much time you have. I've never had to look at the clock to try to determine how much time I had before I had to get the shot off, because I'd repped it so much, whether it was 7 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 second, catch and shoot. I just knew when to let the ball go, so there would be no time on the clock. There's no data available regarding clutch shooting during West's playing days. I wish there was. But he contends during the 1969-70 season, when Wilt Chamberlain was out with a serious knee injury, that he connected on 12 game winners for Los Angeles. The Lakers' archives also make mention of this feat. 12 game winners in a season. 12, okay? So 10% of the games would be eight or 9 games if you make 10% game winners on 82 games. So around 12 games is about 15% of the games that season. So he was responsible, West, for 15% of the team's wins on hitting game winners. And it's just that. He visualized it. He practiced it. Everything comes down to practice. Every single thing you'll ever do in life is down to repetition. Not everyone is able to corral stress. Former Orlando guard Nick Anderson infamously missed 4 free throws in the final 10 seconds of a 1995 NBA Finals game. He later conceded, destroyed his confidence and his career. Though DeMar DeRozan's story has yet to be fully written, one of the reasons the Raptors moved on from him, team sources have privately confirmed, was his tendency to falter in the playoffs when his shooting and scoring numbers dipped. I'll tell you, people say, who would you draft first if you could draft anybody in NBA history? You got to go with Jordan, because he was so clutch, so good in those moments. Look at the Raptors, what they're doing. It's because Kawhi is performing in the clutch. And why were the Cavs good with LeBron and Kyrie? Is because Kyrie could pull that team to victory in crunch time. And I think that is a little bit of a knock against LeBron, because Jordan wouldn't have just stood in the corner and let Pippen dribble the ball up and take the shot. He would have been involved in the play. If you rewatch that game winner Kyrie hit in Game 7, LeBron literally standing in the corner watching the play. Anyways, some guys in the league right now, this is Jordan, awesome. Some guys in the league right now, their regular seasons are different than the playoffs, Jordan explains. Why is that? Because it's a different kind of pressure. Those guys, when it gets stripped down, don't believe in themselves. They aren't sure they can hit the big shot, so they can't. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It reminds me of something Henry Ford once said. You may have heard this. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right either way. Couple this with what Kyrie was saying. You got to want the pressure. You have to believe in yourself. When you get down to it, you just have this abstract belief in yourself that you can do it. With that abstract belief is the repetitions. The belief that you can do things, the confidence you have is made of repetitions. Physical, getting on the court, shooting those shots like Jerry West, and mental, visualizing yourself performing in those big games. That is the foundation, the bedrock of confidence. In the book Peak Performance, authors Steve Magnus and Brad Stulberg argue that stress can serve as a stimulus for growth and adaptation. They liken the process of harnessing stress to lifting weights to add muscle. There's exertion, fatigue, recovery, and then added strength. Yeah, that's what happens. As you push, as you put yourself into incredibly intense practice sessions, you start to develop a stress muscle that can handle stress. Think about people who speak publicly. When they first start, they're shaking, they're almost convulsing, they're so nervous. And then pretty soon they get into it. They've found a way to deal with that stress and they end up enjoying it. They love it. That's why they keep speaking every chance they get and they can't shut up. I kind of have that problem, if you haven't noticed. If you have doubt or concern about a shot or feel the pressure of that shot, it's because you haven't practiced it enough, Jordan says. The only way to relieve that pressure is to build your fundamentals, practice them over and over, so when game breaks down, you can handle anything that transpires. Yep, repetition is the mother of confidence. You've heard repetition is the mother of skill. Repetition is the mother and father and grandfather and grandmother of confidence. You have to get the reps in. And then you can start to, the difference in confidence you'll have if you've been shooting 500 to 1,000 shots a day when you step on the floor is enormous. Do it for 100 days. Shoot 500 to 1,000 shots a day. Step on the floor and see how you feel when you play a pickup game. You're two different people. I could beat you one-on-one from the free throw line or with a defensive stop. And if you put 3 guys on me, I'd beat you with my pass to a teammate for an easy open shot. People didn't believe me when I told them I practiced harder than I played, but it was true. That's where my comfort zone was created. By the time the game came, all I had to do was to react to what my body was already accustomed to doing. Do you see a pattern here in great players, what they're telling you? They're saying, stop caring about the consequences. Just let it happen. Second, believe in yourself. Deeply believe in yourself. And 3, the way you can deeply believe in yourself is to start to practice more than anybody else. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Also note that Jordan didn't just focus on offense. He thought crunch time was a total game. It was passing, it was defense, it was rebounding. Of course, it was scoring, and it was the free throw line. He could beat you in a lot of different ways in crunch time. And you see guys who aren't great in crunch time think it just comes down to making a shot. One of the things we love about Kawhi is he's being clutch defensively. And that's creating a lot of his offensive skill, too. You saw a few steals, or I should say offensive stats. He got a few steals that game that led to easy layups and easy dunks. So, or was at least part of creating that environment where a steal could happen. Jordan has converted some of the most iconic shots in basketball history, including 25 game winners. 24 of those came in the final 10 seconds of the game. But like many of the champions interviewed for this story, there's one he missed that remains etched in his memory. We've talked about this, that the things we mess up on stay in our mind, things that hurt, things that sting, they stay there because it's a very simple idea that evolutionarily speaking, if you got in a fight and got your butt kicked, you're going to remember not to go back there. Sports are interesting because we train ourselves to go back into environments where we've been humiliated, where we've hated what happened to us. But that's part of the challenge. That's part of the fun. It was 1991, in his first trip to the finals, against a Lakers team featuring Magic, James Worthy, and Vlade Divac. With 9 seconds left in Game 1, Jordan launched a wing jumper over the spindly arms of his former North Carolina teammate Sam Perkins. It felt perfect until it rolled around and out. Yeah, that ball was 99% of the way down. I remember seeing it as a kid. I was 10 years old or so, and just being crushed. Jordan had missed that shot. Now, if you thought about it, that was a pretty big miss, Jordan says today. It was my first ever game in the finals. I could have folded, but I had no trouble bouncing back because I knew it was a good shot. I didn't rush it or short arm it or anything. I just missed it. It was a good shot. Great elevation on it. Great follow through. Just didn't go in. Jordan went on to average 32.9 points on 55.8% from the floor in the series. I think he averaged something like 11 assists in that series too, and 8 rebounds, something like that. The Lakers didn't win another game. I believed every time out I was the best, And the more shots I hit, the more it reinforced that, Jordan says. So when you miss, because no matter how great you are, you will miss, you don't waver because you've built yourself a nice little cushion of confidence, repetition, and experience. Now, we've seen plenty of guys go the other way. They miss one shot and they can't ever seem to make one again. That's the kind of negative reinforcement that ruins guys. Awesome quotes from Jordan there. When LeBron James signed with the Miami Heat in the summer of 2010, he declared that he, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, would win not one championship, not two, not three, not four, not five. Then the 2011 finals happened. The heavily favored Heat built a 2-1 series lead over the Dallas Mavericks, but imploded over the final 3 games. We could have won that series had we not blown Game 2, Riley says. We were ahead by 15 with 6 minutes to go, and our guys were celebrating like we'd won the championship, LeBron included. In that series, LeBron's struggles in the final quarter were telling. He averaged just 3 points a game in the fourth quarter, missed 8 of 9 threes he took, and shot 33.3% overall. Most distressing was his unwillingness to take the shot, averaging just 3.5 attempts in that final frame. It left him open to criticism that he was shying away from the moment. So when some of you young guys, get mad at us for comparing LeBron and Jordan, getting mad that people compare LeBron to Jordan, a lot of the times we think back to this series. And I think there was a lot of stuff going on off the court around LeBron, but he couldn't compartmentalize. Killers can compartmentalize. Kobe was going through a court case where he could have went to prison for 20 years, and he still played well. Jordan went through a gambling thing, a gambling controversy, and still played well. If you're going to be great, you have to somehow, no matter what happens, compartmentalize what's going on so it doesn't leak into your game. I feel bad for LeBron. I've had this same problem when I was younger, when I was in high school. Personal issues can get in the way of how you're playing, and you got to find a way around that. And again, to LeBron's credit, he did get around that. LeBron is a great player, Riley says, but before he came to us, he was banging his head against the wall like all great players that can't win. His first year in Miami was somewhat convoluted from the standpoint of chemistry. As much as those guys talked around it, you had 3 significant players who never really got on the same page. They never let it fester, but they never spoke about it the way they should have. The fallout from the Heat's collapse was vicious. James heard it all: choker, head case, front runner. In our exit meeting, LeBron was very dark, Riley recalls. He didn't want to talk about anything at all. He was paralyzed in his own depression. But I wasn't worried. I could have said, "Hey, big guy, call Magic Johnson. Tell him how it feels to hear people say you choked, that you didn't do the job." In his HBO series The Shop, James admitted that the 2011 finals failure felt like the world caved in. "I left the finals like, yo, Bron, what the F was you on, man? Like you was overthinking everything. You didn't show up. You didn't do what you were supposed to do, And now you can't even sleep at night because you didn't give it all that you had." It's one of the worst feelings in the entire world. And it's sad that just, a few games, 7 games of LeBron's career could really hurt his case for being the greatest of all time. But that's why we play. Everything counts. Every game counts. Every practice counts. The stories guys tell about how great Jordan was in practice. B.J. Armstrong just said this. I did a video on it. I'll link it above. He just said, yeah, you never saw the best Jordan. He was his best in practice. So it matters. Everything you do matters. You have to give it your all the time. And again, even though everything matters, you have to be able to play carefree. Kind of crazy. While outsiders declared James needed an appointment with a psychiatrist, I think he could have worked with a sports psychologist for sure. Riley let his superstar stew. He felt confident that James' advisors, Rich Paul and Maverick Carter among them, would help their friend navigate this critical crossroad in his career. They were tremendous, Riley says. They knew how to love him and lift him up. I'll say that. Lean on your friends when you've had a bad game, when you've been humiliated. The people around you who care about you, listen to what they say. Let them build you up. Let them talk you up, tell you how great you are. You need to hear that because it's going to be hard for you to do that yourself, but you also need to do that yourself. Always find the good you did, even when you played bad. LeBron should watch the 2011 finals and, number one, get pissed off and make that fuel, but also say, hey, I did this okay, I did that okay. It wasn't a total loss. To quiet his mind, James eschewed social media, nightclubs, the spotlight. He even began reading more, devouring the entire Hunger Games series on road trips. He sat down for a candid conversation with his friend Wade and informed him he was no longer deferring. Yeah, escapism is a decent way to start to deal with pressure. You can go to the movies, you can read books. That's okay. It's good to have that outlet. But if you do that, plus you actually have drills to deal with the nerves and you visualize to prepare yourself for pressure situations, is the perfect combination. I'm going to be repeating myself because I want to hammer it into your heads. And if you watch my video on how to deal with a humiliating loss, guess what James did? He got back into the gym. He found solace in the gym, and like so many before him, Magic in the mid-'80s, Jordan, years later, began building scar tissue to protect himself from the mental scars of 2011. I don't know if he was building scar tissue. He just decided to get better, to put more work in. I guess it's scar tissue. I guess I agree with that, but he was hardened by it. And yeah, I think that's what the author is trying to say. How that transpires is fascinating. There's a fatty substance formed in the central nervous system called myelin that enables nerve cells to transmit information faster and allow for more complex brain functions. It's also related to IQ. The thicker your myelin sheath is, the more insulated your nerve cells are, meaning you don't when you think something or a neuron fires, it doesn't lose an electrical charge. Myelin sheath is very important. And she's right here. It does. That's what's happening as you gain confidence, as you acquire skill, a better skill set. The key is, how do you quiet the other systems in your brain, in your nervous system, so those learned skills can manifest themselves in pressure situations? Because if your emotions start to hijack you during the pressure situation, that you can have as much myelin sheath build up as you want. You're not going to be able to perform effortlessly. You're not going to be able to rely on all that skill you've built without being able to control your emotions and have poise and confidence and concentration. Consider the first time a right-handed player tries to dribble with his left. It's awkward. It's clumsy. Initially, the nerves that fire off signals to complete that task are controlled in the frontal cortex of the brain. Over time, with countless repetitions, those nerve firings become more insulated. The myelin sheath builds up. Eventually, less effort is required to use the left hand, and the brain processes it as second nature. Yeah, that's true. Obviously, it's a bit more complex than that when you actually look at the neurophysiology of it, but still, it's roughly accurate. One of the things that you find out in master performers in anything, one of the first studies regarding this was a professor by the name of Richard Heyer, who studied Tetris players back in the 90s or 80s, somewhere around there. And you would think as a person gets better at Tetris, well, if you're not an athlete, you might think this, but you would think as a person gets better at Tetris, their brain becomes more active. But in fact, as a person gets better at Tetris, the brain quiets down. They've acquired a skill. It's not using as much energy. And that's what you want to have happen when you're playing basketball. In crunch time, you want to have the brain quiet down and just rely on what it's learnt by practicing so much. The same is possible with pressure, according to neurologists. With repetition, stress can be transformed into fortitude. James accomplished this in the wake of his biggest disappointment. I was wearing a hat that I wasn't accustomed to, James said on The Shop, and I bought into it because at that point in my life, I was still caring about what other people thought. That moment shaped me for who I am today. After the 2000 finals, man, I was just like, that's never happening again. I may lose, I may not win everything, but I will never fail at anything. You see, you start to redefine failure as not giving your best effort. LeBron can live with himself if he gives his best effort, but other voices got in his head. And when those other voices got in his head, he started to play poorly. We always say, and there's something you have to remember, when you're walking down the street and you look in somebody's house and the lights are on, you don't give a damn what they're doing in that house, right? The lights are on, you don't care what they're doing. The same is true of people talking about you. It's like somebody's lights are on in their head, supposedly. A lot of people are pretty dim, if you know what I mean. But somebody's lights on somebody's head. And when you're playing in front of an audience, it's a bunch of houses with their lights on. Who cares what's going on in their house? That's the type of attitude you have to have. When the Heat won in 2013, the most celebrated shot was Ray Allen's killer three from the corner. In 2016, when the Cavs finally became champions, it was Irving's thrilling jumper that resonated. But it's erroneous to suggest LeBron hasn't come through with big shots of his own. Yeah, he has. That's what we were just talking about. He's really turned it around. Since the finals loss to the Mavericks, James has hit 5 buzzer beaters, leaving him with 7 overall in his career. Only Joe Johnson, 8, has hit more per ESPN Stats and Info, which notes this data only includes performances since 2002. Moreover, James leads all players in game-tying go-ahead field goals with 10 in the final 24 seconds of the fourth quarter or overtime since analysts began tracking the data in 1996. His former teammate Allen has 7. Kobe Bryant has 7. They're the only others who are close. For the 2012 MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference, Justin Rowe and Matt Goldman wrote a paper examining the impact of pressure on NBA performance. They used data from 1.3 million possessions to study 2 aspects of the game: offensive rebounding, and effort-based skill, and free throw shooting, which relies on mental tenacity and concentration. It's interesting, but I don't know if I'd rely on those two things to determine impact of pressure. I mean, a lot of guys who are bad under pressure still try very hard, so I don't know. Interesting. I don't know if it's the best indication of whether pressure is getting to you or not, but let's find out more. Rao and Goldman discovered that players shooting free throws in home games did worse in clutch situations than they did on the road due to what the authors called detrimental self-focus. Their study concluded that when players attempt free throws in a hostile environment, they're more apt to rely on their instincts and muscle memory to complete the task. But when asked to take those same clutch free throws in the cozy confines of their own arenas, where hometown fans, friends, and family are counting on them to succeed, players tend to overthink the shot, which the authors contend disrupts the automatic ability to perform. Well, yeah, absolutely. Too much self-focus, too much ego is a problem in pressure situations. We want to go unconscious. Another thing I'll add is sometimes the pressure we feel from people wanting us to succeed is even tougher to deal with than dealing with haters, people who want us to fail. When someone expects you to do good, or imagine this, or you've probably experienced this, someone talks you up and then you have to perform. Oh, you got to see him play basketball. He's so good. Something like that. I had a friend say once, I never talk up my friends before a dinner party. I'll say, he's so witty, he's so entertaining, because as soon as I say that, my friend's going to choke and he's not going to be witty or entertaining. Kevin Durant can relate. He was a sophomore at National Christian Academy in D.C. and a blossoming star after being relegated to mop-up duty the previous season. I wanted to see my name in the paper, Durant says, but when the time finally came, I wanted it so badly, I robbed myself of the moment. Really interesting quote here. He wanted it so badly, it got in the way. Basketball's so crazy because, again, you have this instinct to want it. It's so important to you, but you have to let all of that go. That's why it's so much fun to play, to see what you're capable of. Durant's team was down by 2 to Montrose Christian. Durant would transfer there as a senior. In the final seconds of the game when Durant was fouled, as he stepped up to the line, he was suddenly lightheaded. His adrenaline was on overdrive, and no one had taught him yet to take a few deep breaths, and that would be helpful. My mind was racing, Durant says. What happens if I miss this? What happens if I make it? Will everyone love me? You weigh the pros and cons. Nothing felt right. All I could think of was if I missed. I knew those feelings. I knew I would drown in them. Durant, who went on to become an 88% career NBA free throw shooter, knew the second he released the free throw, there was no chance of it going in. He was too focused on the wrong things. I was so upset with myself, Durant says. You dream about those moments, but when you dream about them, you always make the shot, and it's never a free throw. So that's important. Make sure you visualize yourself at the free throw line. When you're focusing on these game winners, make sure you do that. It could be a free throw. And when you're shooting free throws, pretend you're actually shooting them. Pretend you're actually shooting them in a Game 7, in a national championship. Every free throw. Put that pressure on yourself. It'll make a difference. I'll tell you a very brief story. I played this gym where after you hit 21, it's 2 teams, and it's first one at 21. If you made the game winner, you also have to make a free throw to finish the game. And if you don't, the score goes back to what it was. So imagine you hit a 3, it's 18-18, you hit a 3, and you win the game at 21, then you have to make a free throw. So what I would do when I was just shooting around, getting ready to go play in these games at this gym, and I was just practicing my free throws, I'd pretend I was shooting to win the game. And, when I step up there to make the free throw to win, it felt more comfortable. So you got to make the game real by using your imagination. You have to work on making that small little tweak in your brain where your thoughts are empty and free. But you only learn that through going through tough times, the losses, and the misses. True, and you can also learn it by visualizing. Golden State coach Steve Kerr believes both Durant and Curry are presently unmoved by pressure, something he could not say about himself as a complimentary NBA player. I was an overthinker, Kerr says, and if your thoughts get in the way, you're screwed. Yogi Berra famously said, you cannot think and swing a baseball bat at the same time. You cannot think and shoot well at the same time. You have to just go unconscious. That's what the Basketball Brain program helps you to do. I'm not just pitching my own stuff here. It really does work. Kerr, who played alongside Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Tim Duncan, says that after short-arming big shots with the Bulls and having to absorb Jordan's ire, he took Coach Phil Jackson's advice and turned to meditation to allow his natural shooting motion to dominate his mind instead of all the apprehensive what-ifs. I finally concluded, F it. F-U-C-K-I-T. If I get this ball, it's going up, Kerr says. I went to an I don't care approach instead of dwelling on all the repercussions. He got stupid. Kerr went so far as to write F.I. on his shoes. It was there in ink the night he hit the winner for the Bulls in Game 6 of the 1997 NBA Finals, and later chronicled by Sports Illustrated writer Chris Ballard. Kerr says college coaches from across the country approached him to tell them their kids had adopted his method. Kerr chuckled when he saw a newspaper photo of Butler star Shelvin Mack with F.I. scrawled on his sneakers. Kerr envies players like Jordan and Bird who claim they never suffered doubt. Bird tells the story of his sophomore year in high school, when he broke his ankle and was languishing on the bench upon his return. Suddenly his coach bellowed, "Bird." I wasn't ready to play, Bird recalls, but I go in, I come off the screen, I hit a shot. I'm thinking to myself, I haven't played in 5 months and I can score already. By the time Bird went to the line for a one-on-one with 13 seconds left in the game and the score tied, his confidence was soaring. I walked up and hit both shots, he says. Never fazed me a bit. I always felt bad for the guys who stepped up there and lost their nerve. Yeah, some guys have a little bit more naturally, but Bird practiced so much. I mean, even when he wasn't practicing, hadn't played, he had put so much practice in, you can always rely on that. That residue is there. It really is. Elite basketball players aren't immune to stress. They've just mastered how to channel it. Today's players benefit from state-of-the-art assistance from their teams, including superior sports training facilities, extensive medical staffs, nutritionists, sports scientists, mental health counselors, sports psychologists, sleep experts, yoga instructors, and meditation gurus. Yet the most valuable tool remains the inherent confidence that players know they have the skills to excel. Yeah, I don't know what the sports scientists and mental health counselors and sports psychologists are doing, because the fact that these guys don't have a pregame routine to calm their nerves blows my mind. Maybe these NBA teams should hire me. I could help them. Not saying I would work for those guys anyways. But, it's crazy they don't know about these things. Great players know it's okay to fail, Riley says. They don't succumb to the pressure, but sometimes they succumb to the narrative, especially today when it changes game to game, even court to court. It's so true. You hit a game winner, you've been clutch your whole life. You miss one, you've not been clutch your whole life. I mean, it's really stupid. Look at the Boston Celtics. They beat Milwaukee in Game 1 of their series, and they were the greatest. Then they lost 4 straight. Now they suck. It's what I call peripheral opponents. Great phrase, peripheral opponents. If you allow yourself to succumb to that tremendous stress and anxiety, it's going to get in your head. That's the same thing I was talking about. The peripheral opponents are walking by the houses with the lights on. Same concept here. Also, sports reporters are just stupid. Same with politics. Just stupid. I mean, one run and the team's the greatest ever, lose one game and maybe everything's in jeopardy, Durant admits it has happened to him, even winning back-to-back finals MVPs in 2017 and 2018. It is, he says, a battle to block out the noise and maintain proper focus. Clearly that's something for Durant, but he seems to feed off of it too. It's dreading that embarrassment in front of all these people, he explains. We have such huge egos in the NBA because everyone has catered to us our whole life. When you fail in front of all these people, you get stuck on those who say, I told you so, instead of the people who love and support you. You can either drown in it or rise above it. Well, Basketball Brain helps you rise above it. The NBA's brightest new star, the Greek freak, I am not going to say his name, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I just tried to see, experienced his own healthy dose of stressful playoff basketball once his team fell behind 3-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Toronto Raptors. And the onus to save the Bucks season landed squarely on his broad shoulders. Giannis does want the pressure. I'll tell you that. I've watched enough interviews with him. He wants it. He's a competitor, but like a lot of guys were saying, he doesn't have the skill. And by the way, Nick Wright, I mean, come on. If you couldn't see the flaws in Giannis's game, then I don't know what you were watching. If you couldn't see how a team could exploit that, I don't know what you were watching. He has a lot of things that can be exploited. I also think his very low 2-foot vertical is a problem. He can definitely work around it as his shot improves, but being a big guy, not being very springy is a problem. Shout out to Boing Vert, by the way, boingvert.com. I own that. If you need to improve your vert, I'm going to send it to the Greek freak. It was never a topic for me when I came into the league because nobody expected much from me. Pressure is earned. What a great quote. It's so true. As you get better, they put pressure on you. The 8th guy on the bench doesn't really have pressure, but if you're one of the main guys on the team, you earn that pressure. It's part of wanting it. The Greek freak has already developed his own calming techniques. That's not a good sign when he starts, meaning he probably doesn't know anything about mental training. When he starts to feel jittery, he recalls his father's soothing words, that there's no need to be nervous about a game that he's been playing his entire life. If he needs extra comfort, Giannis rubs his wrists. This is too intellectual. The things we say to ourselves, the little things, it's just a game. None of that really works because everybody does that. Rubbing your wrist together, that has nothing to do with getting ready for a pressure moment. It's what you do before a game, meaning immediately before a game. It is also what you do during a game. But more than that, it's what you've been doing every day in practice. So the Greek Freak does not have a mental training regimen, and it would help him. Curry's found it helpful when he's sitting on the bench to visualize what he hopes to accomplish when he returns to the floor. He has also found that deep breaths slow him and the game down considerably. What happened in 2016 was a hard lesson to learn, Curry says. Kyrie had confidence before that shot, but that will live with him forever. Now, whenever he gets in that situation, that stressful situation, he can draw back on that. Yep. You don't consciously draw back on it. It's just there in the background. You just feel this little energy, like, I like this situation. I've done something great like in a situation like this before. I can handle it. It's just there. It's not really even verbal. You just feel it. The more confidence you have, the more experience you have hitting game winners. It's a tingly sort of excitement, and you're just ready for the moment. Durant draws back to the 2017 finals when he did his own share of deep breathing and meditation on the way to finding peace and excellence. He learned to block out stress by turning off his phone, placing the do not disturb sign on his door, disengaging from most people outside the team, and focusing on a singular goal, winning in spite of himself. Yeah, that's true. You got to win in spite of your own thoughts. The last thing I want when I play, Durant says, is to be in my own way. Well, I keep saying, these guys use meditation. They use things that are for general purposes. Basketball Brain was created specifically for basketball players to get you in the zone, especially to get you in the zone in crunch time. This is the longest video I've ever done, and I'm just curious how many of you guys actually listen to the end, if any of you. So if you listen to the end, what I want you to write in the comment section is this: I am clutch. If you write that in the comment section, I'm going to give you a thumbs up and a thank you because it means you listened to the very end. Please visit basketballbrain.com. And this one might be a little boring. It dragged on a little bit, but I thought it was so important I'd do the whole damn article and just comment as I go. Please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Peace out.